Good afternoon, good morning, good night. Welcome back to the How Does This Work podcast. I'm your host, Antoine Lance. Be sure to give me a follow on Twitter at _Antoine Lance. That's the in all caps _ANTWANLANCE. Obviously, it's Wednesday. You've yet to hear from me this week. Didn't upload on Monday. Wasn't really feeling too hot this past weekend. Typically, I record my Monday episodes either Saturday or Sunday. Really wasn't feeling too great. Didn't want to put out something that was going to be subpar or, not what I felt like was my best that I could do. So I just decided I wasn't going to do that. So here we are on Wednesday. It's going to be a doubleheader. You're going to get 2 episodes this week on Wednesday, and you'll still get an episode on Friday. Hopefully these double upload on Wednesday will be enough to make you forgive me for not uploading this past Monday. But I hope to this point that you've all first I hope everyone had a great weekend. Tell me how your weekend was. Hope that was good. But I hope, it being Wednesday, middle of the week, I hope you have all been, having a good week and all that good stuff. Before I jump right into things, I do want to say that, obviously I gave my Twitter name at the beginning of the show, but, what I did was I created a Twitter specifically for the show, and you can, follow the show itself at HDTW_podcast. You should see the show's logo, and the name of the Twitter is How Does This Work? That way, I just figured I can have everything in one space. Cause I don't like for things that I tweet just on, at random to get, garbled up with like show stuff. So now I can actually separate the two. Obviously, I'm still going to tweet out things about the show, but, if you follow me on Twitter, that'll just be following my personal Twitter. If you follow the show, that will be, nothing but show stuff. That'll be, me tweeting out the episodes, me just giving updates about the show, like for example, I didn't upload Monday, so I would tweet something like that out from the show Twitter from now on, not from my Twitter. But you can still follow me on Twitter, but that's just going to be for some personal, that'll be my personal Twitter. You'll see all sorts of random stuff on there. Follow the show at HDTW_podcast. So if you have questions, you want me to talk about something, you just want to tell me that you enjoy the show and that you like listening, yes, tweet at HDTW_podcast. But that all out the way, today we're going to talk about changes. And, with everything going on in the world right now, that's been a pretty, prevalent topic, I'd say, just as far as us as people changing, what we do and how we do it. And, the frequency in which we do it. Obviously, as always, you want to start off, let's define change. The definition of change, the act or instance of making or becoming different, that is change in its noun form. And then you have the verb form of change, which is to make or become different, which I believe that the verb form of the definition is what you'll typically see as far as everyday life is, making things different or turning things into something else. So, you can look at it like a cake, for example. You take your eggs and your flour and all your different ingredients, you bake them, you change them into a cake. So pretty basic example right there of what change is. But when it comes to us as individuals, as people, I think we are definitely a little hesitant when it comes to changing. We as people definitely not very fond of change. We don't like when things change because it upsets our status quo. And once our status quo has been upset, we no longer feel in control. And once we no longer feel in control, then we take issue with various situations, whatever it is. A lot of times what you'll see, or what I see at least from people, is they are very resistant to change. They don't they don't let things change. They aren't willing to relinquish control so that things can change. And that in turn, I believe, makes their life a lot more difficult than what it has to be. The sooner that we as humans realize that change is inevitable and there's nothing we can do to stop it, the better off we'll be, I believe. I think a lot of times we create so many issues for ourselves based off of us not wanting to change or being resistant to things around us changing or people around us changing. I think humans are a lot more resistant to people around them changing than places. I think a person I think would be much more willing to allow a place to change than a person to change. And that sucks because as humans, we should always be evolving. We should never become stagnant. As believers, we don't serve a stagnant God. He's always evolving things. He's always doing things differently. So it's in our, best bet to mimic that behavior and just be willing and, able to accept change and to embrace it, honestly, run towards it and grasp at it instead of running from it like so many people often do. I think what I think definitely is one thing that kind of makes the whole, makes changing a lot more difficult is people get really comfortable in whatever they're doing or in whatever they are, whatever they feel like they are. And you have to realize that if you're really comfortable with something and you've been doing it for a long time, you have to just realize that it was man-made, so it wasn't made to last. It's not gonna last forever. Nothing man-made lasts forever, and therefore, you shouldn't get so attached to things to the point where when it is time for something to change, you have to, throw a temper tantrum and throw a hissy fit and you get all upset. Because all that really does is you are at that point, instead of making the change easy, you're resisting it. You're being stubborn and you're not allowing nature to take its course, honestly, because a lot of that is just nature. It's the nature of the beast. Things don't last forever. Some things are very enjoyable and that's great. Some, those same things some of those same things you're only to enjoy for a season. It's not certain things in life you aren't meant to enjoy forever. And that's just the fact of life. The sooner I believe that, you accept that and you move on with things that change and you allow things to change, the easier I do believe that your life would be. A lot of people I see are very resistant to let things go and relinquish things. I think it kind of goes, with the whole saying like, oh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's because the old dogs are stubborn. People are stubborn. I'm stubborn. We all have stubborn moments and stubborn tendencies, but we have to be able to shake those things and get out of that because, like I said, it's an easier process. Change is an easier process if you just allow it to run its course. What happens sometimes when you don't allow things to change is you become outdated. You become antiquated. You become obsolete. So, you can let's look at Netflix, for example. Netflix at one point was pretty much like Blockbuster, but they just didn't have, actual stores. There was nothing. You couldn't go into a Netflix and rent DVDs or whatever. Netflix, I think, saw that the internet was going to change the way that people viewed movies and just not just movies, but entertainment in general. I think early on Netflix saw that. And so, I don't really remember what year, but you saw the shift from Netflix going from sending out the DVDs in the red envelope to Netflix pushing its online service. And obviously now Netflix is the streaming media giant that it is. If you look at Blockbuster was before the boom of the internet. Obviously Blockbuster was the spot. You wanted to rent a DVD for you and your lady or you and your man to watch on a Friday night or whatever have you. You go to Blockbuster, you rent something, boom, boom, boom. I think Blockbuster, for whatever reason, I guess they just didn't have the people in positions to say, hey, I think this internet thing is really going to start taking off. We should invest in ways to begin to move some of our catalog, from physical CDs and DVDs into Blockbuster. And as time went on, Blockbuster started to fade, and the need for Blockbuster eventually became zero because no one bought DVDs. No one buys DVDs anymore. That's why if you go into Walmart, you see bins of old DVDs for $1 because no one buys those. So Blockbuster's lack of ability to adjust and change, or just lack of foresight to see that the internet was on the rise and that was going to be the future, that's what That is what caused blockbusters to become outdated and eventually have to go into bankruptcy, and now there are no blockbusters. But and you look at situations like that, you can see that in everyday life. Over time, people resist change. People either they resist it out of choice or they just don't see it, which sometimes that's to no fault of their own. But they just don't see that times are changing, and they haven't made preparations to adjust, or preparations to tweak what they do to fit what is new, what is over the horizon, and they end up becoming outdated, and it sucks, but they just lose battles. I think again, you look at retail industry, look at look at Best Buy, Circuit City, and Radio Shack. If you look at those three companies, again, early late 90s, early to maybe mid 2000s, all three are competing. I keep saying Blockbuster. Best Buy realizes, hey, we can do certain things with our prices. We can offer certain things, and we can also shift our focus to, instead of shipping things from warehouses and distribution centers to a store so that a customer has to comes in, we can just shift things to a warehouse. We can get those things then to Amazon, which Amazon is obviously the big winner in all of this, because Amazon is now number one. Amazon, I think Jeff Bezos, I assume he saw that there was never any point for him to even build stores. But back to Best Buy, they shifted a lot of the bringing stock to stores to we're just going to bring stock to stock checkpoints or warehouses and allow Amazon or UPS or whatever to deliver. And eventually that killed the need for a Circuit City, or that killed the need for a Radio Shack. And you see it all the time. But like I was saying with Jeff Bezos, like, that dude saw it so far in advance. He was like, the internet is going to make me a millionaire. And he completely changed the game. Amazon changed the game. Apple changed the game. These different companies and these billionaires, they had the foresight and the mindset to be like, all right, people have been doing this for X amount of years, and sure, it's been working, but how can I change it so that I can make something better? And like I said, Blockbuster, Radio Shack, Circuit City, those guys they didn't have time, honestly, to prepare for the change, and now they are no more. They don't exist. And they were cool for a time. They had their moment, and then Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy came in, changed the game, and that's what happens. Ecclesiastes 3, chapter 3, verse 1 says, "For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven," meaning everything isn't gonna last, and something might be for you in one season and not in the next. So it's just in your best interest to accept that and roll with that, because again, you want to be like Amazon, you want to be like Walmart, you want to be like Best Buy. You don't want to be like Circuit City, Blockbuster, and Radio Shack. Yeah, just accept that things change over time. Obviously, that just accept it, embrace it. Have the foresight to be like, all right, this has been working, but what can we do to make it better? We should always be attempting to change things for the better. A lot of people are also resistant to change because they are so comfortable doing what they've been doing that they see no possible way that switching it up could work. And like there's a saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I agree with that. But at the same time, I think a lot of people struggle to realize when what they're doing is broke. If you've been doing something for 40 years and it kind of works, to me, it doesn't work. Something shouldn't kind of work. And so if you realize that what you're doing kind of works, you should be willing and have the capacity to say, all right, yeah, I've been doing this and it kind of works, but I could probably be doing it better or more efficiently or faster. You should always try and change things so that they help make your life easier. And a lot of times that stuff can be a blessing. You might not realize it in the moment, but that stuff can definitely be a blessing. Good example from my life. So at a previous job, I worked with a group of people, and I loved those people. Those people were awesome. We always had fun at work, no matter what the situation was. Like if it was busy, slow, we always made it a point to have fun. But I had reached a point where, I was starting to move up within the company, and I think looking back at it, I would have hit a ceiling. I would have hit a definite ceiling looking back at it. But my bosses came to me and they're like, hey, we're thinking we're going to move you to a different store. And in that moment, I was like, dang, this sucks. Like, I was sad. I was legitimately sad and upset about it because I really didn't want to move stores because I was having fun. Like, I liked the people I worked with. I moved stores. I was at this new store for like 6 months. I bonded with everyone there, got used to the way things work. It was like around month 4 or 5 where I was like looking back and I realized, wow, what I left was such a toxic situation, because after I left, that ship sank. And so I didn't, I was glad to be graced by God enough to, not have to sink with that ship. But, it was just like, oh, all right. So I was really upset that I had to move in the moment, but that was a welcome change. Not only did I not have to go through that, I ended up getting better at what I was doing. I learned from, another employee. He was awesome. Everyone I worked with at the second store, all awesome people. They were great. I learned so much from them to the point where I ended up getting my own store. I got to run my own program. And again, didn't really want to, like, this one was a little bit different, obviously, because I was getting a promotion. And I was still kind of like, dang, it's going to suck. Like, I can't believe I have to leave you guys, blah, blah, blah. But I still, I took the promotion. I moved on. At this point, like, the transition from the first store to the second store was a lot more rough than the transition from the second store to the third store. And I say that because I had learned from that previous change that, okay, change isn't always bad. Like, just because people are changing things and the people around me are changing, I don't have to get upset by that. I can still go into this and have a positive attitude and believe that, this is going to work out and this is going to be cool. And it did just that. It worked out. Everything was cool. I had tons of fun while I was there. I got even better at my job. And yeah, so it's hard. Obviously, it's hard in the moment of change. Like, when things are changing, it's really hard to in that moment be like, okay, you know what? This is going to be good. That's a hard mindset to maintain all the time, especially if the thing that's changing is something you like. It's a hard mindset to have. And I still don't really have a grasp on it, but I'm, constantly working towards trying to have a positive mindset about change. And I think that's something we should all do, is just try and have the most positive mindset about it, because a lot of times what will happen is things will change. And then, months later, once you've been removed from the situation, or you're a little bit further away from the situation, you can look back at it and be like, oh, I was worried about nothing. And it worked out, and it was always going to work out. But like I said, obviously we don't have we don't know in the moment that it's going to work out, but you just have to have, just put your faith and your trust in God and believe that if he's moving you, he's moving you into something better than what you came from. Change also has a way of rejuvenating and revitalizing just people and, just an activity for people. You look at, like, I look at it like in sports, a lot of times people can grow stagnant in the cities that they play in, and a lot of times you'll start to kind of see a decline. But if you get those same people and you put them in a new city with a different team, you'll see sometimes that people start to blossom. Sometimes I think, at least, for just from a mental mindset, I think change can a lot of times do that. Like, a lot of times a change of scenery can be a good thing. And I know maybe this is kind of weird. So sometimes, like, whenever I'm going to work, typically I like to just, figure out what way is gonna get me there in the best fashion. But sometimes, that grows stale. Like, taking the same path to work every day, that can grow stale. I'll switch it up sometimes. I'll take a different path to work. I'll go a different way. I genuinely find that if I get into these ruts, that little small moment of me doing something different will kind of shake that rut up, and I can get out of it a little bit faster. I don't know if that's, like, been scientifically proven or maybe if it's like a placebo effect that I've tricked my mind into believing. I don't know what it is. All I know is that change can definitely make things feel better and rejuvenate things. I think that's why when you go on vacation, you come back. Obviously, you don't really want to come back because who wants to go back to work after being on vacation? But you definitely do feel a bit more rested. You feel rejuvenated. You feel like you've got more energy after you've gone on vacation. And I think part of that is just because you're not looking at the same things day in and day out. You know, if you look at the same walls every day for like 30 years and they're the same colors all the time, it's going to get boring. So why not paint the wall? If you want to paint the wall purple, paint the wall purple. If it's going to, I wouldn't paint a wall purple. Maybe not. I wouldn't paint like a living room wall purple. I'd paint a bedroom purple. But, you know, just do something to help get the juice back into things, you know. Relationships over time can start to get a little bit stale. What doesn't help that stale relationship is if you just continue to do the same things that made the relationship stale, you know. Switch it up. Go do something different. Go try something crazy. Go on a crazy date. Do something that neither of you would ever really consider doing. Maybe you'll have some fun, and you know, you and your significant other might find a new hobby that you guys enjoy together. Something like that can help rejuvenate your relationship. You know, it's all about just trying little things to switch up some of the boring aspects of life. I just think that if you do and you go and you try something different, I think that can definitely be a blessing. You know, obviously not, you know, like a big blessing to some people, but to some people a different wall color is a big blessing. You know, like if you don't want to look at the same wall every day for 30 years, like I said, don't paint it purple. Another aspect of change being a blessing, I think, is, and it's very fitting with COVID, everything has been closed for some period of time recently, and I think it's forced us as people to evaluate how we go about life, how we maneuver through life, and what we intake, and all that kind of good stuff, and the amount of people that we choose to be around and who we choose to be around. And so I think COVID, while COVID's been terrible, it's killed a lot of people, it's going to kill a lot more people. I think it's definitely forced us as people to take a look inward and say, maybe I don't need, you know, to eat out every night. Let me try and cook. Like, you know, I've always wanted to try and cook. What better time to try and cook than now, when maybe I shouldn't really trust the fast food as much. And I definitely think self-evaluation is always a good thing. It'll reveal a lot of things to you about yourself that maybe you wouldn't have bothered to figure out otherwise. You know, it can reveal some very unhealthy habits that you have that, you know, you may want to try and break, or just stuff like that. And that's always a blessing when you have an opportunity to look at yourself and say, I don't really like what I'm doing here, or I'm not doing this to the best of my ability. It's always a blessing when you have an opportunity to work on yourself and adjust and try and you know, get better at something or become a better person or whatever it is for you. But that's always a blessing. The opportunity to better yourself is always a blessing. I would never take that for granted, honestly. Of all the things in life that I have taken for granted, because we as humans, we take a lot of things for granted. I think the opportunity that that I have every day to make myself better is definitely something for a long time, and even now still sometimes I think I take it for granted. And it's not like everyone doesn't have that opportunity. Everyone's not, you know, blessed to see every day to be in a position to better themselves. And now with COVID forcing us, honestly, to spend more time with ourselves and you know, whether it be with your family or with your significant other, or, you know, what have you, it's definitely forced a lot of people to look inward. And I mean, I think that after all of this, whenever all this ends, I think you could see a lot of improvements in a lot of people. You know, some people who maybe you thought had a certain trait about them that you didn't really care for, or they do things that you don't necessarily like. Maybe you'll see after quarantine and after this starts to die down, maybe you'll see some positive change in them. I pray that everyone with any kind of negative trait that they don't like about themselves or is harming other people, I pray that this time to look inwardly at themselves has allowed them to work through that and, you know, figure out why they do it, and also figure out a way to stop it. But not even or also, you know, like I said, it's forced us to look inwardly and evaluate ourselves. I think it's also forced a lot of believers to look at themselves and evaluate their relationship with God, and just the way that, you know, they carry themselves as Christians. I know for me personally, a lot of this time alone, because I haven't been working, so I've had a lot of time to, like I said, do some self-evaluation and do a lot of different things. It's definitely revealed that, like, it's just revealed a lot of different things to me that I don't necessarily care for. And the best way I know to fix those things is to build my relationship with God more. I think that's what I've enjoyed about this the most, is that I don't have the excuse of other things anymore. So there's no reason for me to not improve my relationship with God. Like, there's never a reason to not, or there's never a reason to not work on your relationship with God. But it's easier when, you have work and all these other things. But I'm not working and everything's closed, so I don't really have anywhere to go. So this is the perfect time to work and strengthen my relationship with God. And that's one thing, like I said, that's been for me a big blessing. Like, I've got to read more. I've got to study more. I have that free time now to do those things. Not, and I shouldn't have, you should never put those things off, but now there is no excuse. So, it's forced me to be like, all right, now that there is no excuse, what am I going to do? That's another aspect of COVID that I think has been a blessing. Just like the ability to look inwardly and be like, all right, my relationship with God isn't where I feel it should be. Let's do some work. Let's do some reading. Let's do some studying. Let's do some praying so that I can get to a level that I feel I should be at and just keep improving. There's no cap. I don't want there to be a cap to my relationship with God. Like, I just want to keep it going up. That's what I got for you guys on Change. Like I said, I apologize for not uploading on Monday. Just wasn't really feeling too well. Just to sum everything up, long story short, if you're on Reddit, TLDR, it stands for too long didn't read, but change is gonna happen. It's inevitable. Just accept it, roll with it, try and see the positives in it. Don't run from it. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. A lot of times it's a blessing. It can get you out of some really bad situations, but I don't have too much else. This is the first or second of 2 episodes that will be out today. Like I said, show has a separate Twitter now for my Twitter. If you want to follow me, I am on Twitter at _Antoine Lance. It's the in all caps _ANTWANLANCE. The show's Twitter, where all the updates and all that good stuff, where you can reach the show, and I'll respond. HDTW_podcast. I hope you guys have a great Wednesday and a great rest of your week. If no one's told you, I love you. You mean the world to me. Stay safe. Be blessed.